Hachikano, anap ilai Langley mil, chak wasatakom, und delichtigom Elton, Louisiana kafa. Achayok pahos iralik hachim banidalik yanihta. Hachimankala Chokfik chachokibosi weilip halalit. Bitcoin, yon Chokfik atosi chokibosik imolostihcho. Himag. Holchivok Tiiskilak Nita Mathahliichitolimpahchok. Tiiskilak onkak Nita Mathahliichitolo kahan. Nita kiyinkon. Himakos kahatolimpak Tiiskilak. Motohon. Nitak ayatohon. Tiiskilak ilon ka toshok. Ifa info fuhka yamen mahjon. Ifa impahka yamen impahkan. Nitak hachalik onamit walikato limpak. Mamen Tiiskilak lolit chakok hi ha ka dolimpak. Mamosen Tiiskilak hichafogok nitak noksipato limpak. Tiiskilak afalechitolimpak. Akamos. Man, yon Chokfik holchifok Saamin Okik Sayotlihchoto. Chokfi aton stoglot ayachiton. Atik okon stisen. Chokfik achakit aya onkak. Anok stisilas oki ka dolimpak. Mamion atik onkak inko ka dolimpak. Chokfik onkak anok shimisila ka dolimpak. Mamen Chokfik chilitkat to limpas. Mameyon atik stihiko to limpak. Motohon Chokfik oki stimisok stiwalika to limpak. Mahamok oki oya tihikat swalikat oya tintipichi to limpak. Akamiskan hachik lamatikko chomimpak. Chokfik alwali tono mimpak. Chokfi in kota. Akamos. Yon Chokfik holchivok. Chokfik Koibolito Tikba Okichobatatha. Chokfik Okichobatatha atan Tikbak nahoton. Chokfik hichok Koibolahik bannat o limpak. Mantik oha hichachito. Mamen yatasla Tikbak ikso chommin. Chokfik stuntahik banna kumito. Chokfik choyi nehan isbak pana sa molit anolo katato. Ohi kichon Tikba stisok swalikat hukstolin ifo to huktolin. Swalikan. Hochakikon okifa stosho Tikba stilipabataplin hitalin stocho foto ho limpak. Stosho putlit stilan Tikba ho hichato limpak chokfe. Mamok chokfi ohiyihot to limpak. Akamos. Now, I want to tell a story using both Koasati and English. I want to show everyone that you don't have to be a first speaker of a language to use it. I tell our creation story in this way, as my father did before me. It is said that long ago, the whole world was covered with water. The only living creatures were birds and small animals that rested on the back of Satta, the turtle. Who will find land for us? They asked, and Sukcho, the crawfish, volunteered. He dove deep into the water and used his strong tail to scoop mud until he built up a mound that emerged from the water. The animals were happy to finally see land. Sukcho continued to scoop, and the mud spread wider and wider. The animals and birds looked in all directions. They were pleased, but the earth looked so flat. So the birds and animals asked Tulokkochoba, the eagle, if he would fly over the earth to shape it. So Tulokkochoba flew up and over the surface of the mud. Everywhere the tips of his great wings touched the earth, rivers, lakes, and valleys appeared. And when he flew upward, his great wings raked up mud into mounds, hills, and mountains. When he held his wings still, wide, smooth plains spread forever. Hokomangkahcholik. This is the story we were told of how the earth came to be. Sobechichoto halaki mixochoto falakchik. Hokomangkahcholik. It is said that long ago, when this land was inhabited only by animals and Indians, things were much different than they are today. The landscape was untouched. There were beautiful, lush forests, ittohayo, as far as the eye could see. Streams with clear, pure water, and all the creatures lived together in harmony. The big animals paid special attention not to step on the small animals, and the smaller animals tried their best not to annoy the larger animals. They all treated each other with the utmost respect. Suddenly, one day, things began to change. No one is sure exactly when or why, but the animals in nature started to feel overcrowded and began conflicts with one another. For the first time ever, the forest began to hear new sounds as the animals argued with each other over where the best watering holes were, where the best sleeping spots could be found, and who had the right to eat which plants. Now, the large animals would intentionally step on the tails of the small animals, and the small animals would pester the large animals. Where there had once been harmony and balance, the sounds of bickering and argument echoed through the forests of the land. This newfound acrimony between the animals eventually resulted in a sin so great, the creator, Abachakoli, had to intervene. As the arguments intensified, a bear found a tree that had both fuho, bees, and mockingbirds' nests. He could easily have collected his honey without incident, but instead, he targeted Fosobachi, mockingbird, and her baby birds. He reached his great claw up and knocked the nest out of the tree, and once it had fallen to the ground, the bear climbed down and ate all the mockingbirds in the nest. For the first time, Thakani, blood, had been spilled in the serene forest. The sound of blood hitting the ground resonated up through the earth and into the heavens until it reached the ears of the Creator, Abachakoli, he who sits on high. He grew enraged and said, "What has happened in my creation? I must go down to see what has gone wrong and put a stop to this commotion." And so, while all the animals continued to argue with loud cries, suddenly the Creator appeared before them in the forest. The creatures were so surprised that they immediately fell silent. "What has happened here?" asked the Creator. "Did you not all enjoy the beautiful green forests and clear running streams I made for you? Was there not plenty of food for all of you and everything you could ever desire here? And did I not say that you were all to live in harmony with one another and treat each other with great respect in the manner you would hope to be treated by your fellow animals?" The animals were ashamed, so they all looked down and could only nod in silence. "I gave you all this, and if it was not enough, I would have given you more. So tell me, what has gone wrong to make you all angry with one another? You treat each other more like enemies than friends." All the creatures stayed silent and sat in their shame. Finally, Nita, bear, renowned for his courage, stepped forward and spoke up. "It was I who spilled blood in this sacred forest. I killed the nest of mockingbirds. But I have to say, it was not I who started the conflict. That is the fault of Fuosi, the birds. They fly overhead and sing their songs too loudly. They take the best trees full of honey and claim them for themselves. They complain if any land animal stays underneath their trees for too long. They will not allow us to climb the trees nor sharpen our claws on them. They claim what is not theirs and torment us daily. After Bear spoke up, all the other creatures joined in, resulting in a chaotic chorus of complaints. The large creatures blamed the small ones, and vice versa. The land animals blamed the birds, and vice versa, and so on and so forth. Finally, the Creator raised his hands. "Silence!" he bellowed, and once again, silence filled the forest. It is clear to me that you have all forgotten what it means to be truly grateful for what you have, and that you will no longer live peaceably with one another unless I do something. I want you all to learn how to live and work together again, though it won't be the same as it was before. From this day forward, there will be one day a year that there will be no fighting whatsoever. That will be the day of Pokotokochoba, the great ball game. All the creatures looked at each other in amazement. What was the Creator thinking? What kind of a ball game could all the creatures play together? "These are the rules," the Creator began. "You will all have 3 weeks to practice together before ball game day. There must be no fighting or arguing during these practice times, or you will lose points before the game begins. Any creature who wishes to play must be allowed to play, but every creature must belong to a team. You will be divided into 2 teams, animals that have no wings and birds. I will give you equipment to use on the game day, and the object is to carry this ball with these sticks over the other team's goal line. Each team will have a set of 2 poles that represent their goal, and the team's poles will be separated by 100 yards. You must cross your opponent's goal line as many times as you can before time expires. The team who has scored the most points when time runs out will be the winner of the game." He continued, "To keep things fair, the wingless animals cannot run over the birds or run out of bounds with the ball. Likewise, the birds cannot fly over the heads of the land animals. Everyone is to remain within the boundaries of the field and to play with a fair spirit, ensuring a level playing field for the game. Your 3 weeks of practice time starts now. Learn to work together and overlook each other's differences. The winners of the game will have full rights to any disputed territory for the remainder of the year. The games will continue until animals no longer live in the forest." And with that, the Creator was gone, disappearing back into the heavens. Slowly, the animals began to look around, wondering what to do next. Finally, Upa, Owl, suggested that they begin to form themselves into the teams the Creator mentioned and go into separate practice areas to begin their preparation. And so, the animals did just that. All the birds gathered among the tall trees in the forest, while the land animals gathered in the grassy fields on the banks of the nearby river. There, the teams began to take stock of their players and discuss possible strategies. Barely noticed among the larger animals without wings was Hallaki, the tiny bat. At that time, the bat had no falakchi, wings at all, and stood barely taller than a field mouse. He had poor eyesight, but his hearing was very keen, and he had definitely heard the Creator say that all creatures without wings were to play together on one team. "Since I have no wings," thought Bat, "I must be on the team with the other land animals." So, he made his way down to the grassy field to discuss strategy with his larger teammates. At first, the land animals were so busy talking that they did not even notice the tiny bat. When all of the positions had been assigned and his name had not been called, Bat thought there must be some mistake. He trotted over to Bear, a team captain for the land animals, and asked him what position he should play. At first, Bear didn't realize where the tiny squeaky voice was coming from, but finally, he looked down and saw the tiny bat at his feet. Taking a deep breath, Bat tilted his head up and shouted, "What about me? What position should I play?" Bear began to laugh. And then laughed so hard he could not stop. "You," roared Bear, "what do you think you could do to help our team? You have no skills that set you apart from other animals. Who would want a creature like you on their team? The tiny bat struggled to explain that the creator had said that all animals must be on a team and have the chance to play. But Bear was laughing too hard to listen. As Bat began to walk away, Bear called after him, "Perhaps you can join our team if you beat me in a wrestling match." The sounds of Bear's laughter echoed through the trees as Bat made his way to other wingless animals to plead his case. Next, Bat went to Icho, deer. Summoning his courage, he asked, "Can I be on your team for the game?" Deer seemed to think over the proposition. Just when Bat was beginning to get hopeful, Deer replied, "You can be on our team if you beat me in a race," and ran away, his cackles heard through the forest. "I know," thought Bat. "I will go to Kui, Panther. He won't be afraid to let me join his team," but Panther laughed at him too. He asked, "Will you be able to face the other team fearlessly and run the ball right at them as I can? Perhaps if you could do that, I might agree to let you join our team. Now, leave me in peace." Finally, discouraged by his failure, Bat gave up and hung his head. He could still hear the laughter of the wingless animals in the distance as he walked away. "I'll go over and see the birds," thought Bat. "I know I can't play with them, but some of them are as small as I am, and maybe they can think of some way to help me play in the game." And so, he went among the tall trees of the forest to find the birds. The birds were already hard at work planning their game strategy, but they were not too busy to notice the entrance of poor little Bat. "What is wrong?" Biaka, Hawk, called out. "Why aren't you getting ready for the game with your team? Were you sent here to spy on us?" With tears welling in his eyes, Bat recounted the story of how he had been laughed at, scorned, and mocked by the land animals. The birds did not like the way that Bat had been treated and wanted to make it right. "We would let you play with us in a second," said Lukja, Crow. "But the rules from the Creator are clear. In order to play on the bird team, you must have wings, and since you don't have any, I am not sure how you can play with us." Bat nodded, feeling worse than ever. "I appreciate that you would help me if you could," he said, "but I can see that I am no use to anyone. I wish that I had never been born." As Bat turned to leave the forest, Wise Owl called out to him, "Wait, it's true that you do not have wings, but the Creator did say that all creatures were to play in the game. Perhaps if we all put our heads together, we can come up with a way that you can play with us on our team. It is worth the effort to make sure that we consider every possibility." So Bat and all the birds gathered to brainstorm together. By the time the sun was setting and the evening air grew cold over the forest, the birds were no closer to arriving at a solution than when they began. Bat was preparing to thank them for their efforts and insist that they return to planning for the game when Owl spoke up again. Using his sharp vision, he spotted Okichobatatha, an old drum discarded by Indians lying under a tree in the distance. "Perhaps," said Owl pensively, "we can use that drum to fashion wings for Bat. Then he will have every right to play with us on our team." The other birds were excited by this idea. Tiiskilak, Cardinal, offered to outline the pattern. Bukba, Woodpecker, offered to cut the leather of the drum, and Fosi no Bakko, Pelican, offered to fasten the newly fashioned wings onto Bat. But the results were not as they all expected. Because none of the birds had ever created wings before, the pattern they drew up was quite large. The wings stood much taller than Bat himself, and because none of them had any experience with this exercise, the result was uneven, with jagged lines, and looked nothing like the wings of other birds. When they finally attached the wings onto Bat, he immediately fell over. When the other birds lifted Bat off the ground, the weight of the wings was too great for him, so he fell a second time. Lying face down in the dirt at the feet of the birds, Bat was prepared to give up once again, and insists that they go on with their preparations without him. Again, the birds refused to admit defeat and picked him up once more. "They may be too big for him on the ground," said Salakla, goose, "but they could still work to fly with. That's how it is for me." The rest of the birds agreed, and so, at their urging and with their coaching and instructions, Bat got a running start and flapped his new wings and tried to fly. However, try as he might, he could simply not lift himself into the air for more than a few seconds at a time, and he could not seem to catch on to the art of flying. All he managed to do was skin his ibisani nose repeatedly. The falls Bat suffered when he first put on his wings and when he tried to fly from the ground left him with a pushed-in nose, almost resembling a pig snout. That is why bats' noses look how they do to this day. Finally, Bat said what he had been thinking all day. "It's absolutely no use trying to help me, because it will never work. I thank you all for your help and for caring so much about me, but I can't let you lose any more valuable practice time trying to help me. I'll never amount to anything." Still, the hard-headed birds insisted and refused to give up on their newfound friend. "Since we have gone this far, let's try one more thing," said Tiiskilak, robin. "I know when I was old enough to learn how to fly, my mother pushed me right out of the nest." The other birds nodded in agreement, remembering how they had also been pushed out of their nest to learn how to fly. "It's worth a shot," agreed Owl. "If something goes wrong, at least we will be down here to catch him." Tulukochoba, eagle, offered to take Bat up to the top of the highest tree, and before Bat could protest, he found himself being taken high into the air. He had never been up this high before. On the ground below him, the birds looked like tiny ants. Just as his dim eyesight was adjusting to the view, he felt a push. Eagle nudged him off the branch they were standing on. Out of fear, Bat grasped wildly for something to hold onto, grabbing another branch and hanging upside down due to the weight of his wings. He felt safe this way, and so that is why bats hang upside down from branches instead of perching on top of them to this day. But just as he began to feel comfortable, he lost his hold and felt himself tumbling toward the ground below. Beneath him, the birds all shouted their encouragement. "Spread your wings and flap them," shouted one from the ground. "Find an air current," shouted another. "Use your wings," shouted a third. But Bat just kept tumbling, end over end. Just as he was about to fall into his hole of self-pity, he suddenly stuck his wings straight out and they caught the air. Because they were so large, and because he did not know how to use them, he zigzagged in every direction, going first to the right, then to the left, then back up, then back down again. That is why bats still fly in this erratic pattern to this day. And because Bat first learned to fly long after the sun had gone down, he grew accustomed to flying at night. That is why bats sleep during the day and only fly at night to this day. Before he knew it, he had landed safely on the ground on his feet. The birds all crowded around Bat to congratulate him, and Owl said, now he must do it again, and again, and again, until he masters the use of his wings. So up on Eagle's back he went again, and the whole process was repeated. Gradually, Bat began to understand how to use his wings. He still could not fly straight like the other birds, but he could zip from side to side and up and down in the blink of an eye, all with great control. He continued to practice with the birds until the day of the great ball game, Pokotokochoba. Stay on the sidelines, the bird team captains agreed, and you will be our secret weapon. Finally, the day of the game had arrived. Hussey, the sun, rose high over the trees, bright and early. All the creatures of the animal kingdom were on hand to play and to cheer on their family and friends. Initially, things did not go well for the bird team. Throughout the first half of the game, the land animals were clearly winning. They had gone up by a score of 3-0. Seeing that they were at a disadvantage over the larger, stronger, and faster land animals, the birds decided to do everything they could to tire them out. By the time there was only a few minutes remaining in the second half, the animals thought that their victory over the birds was assured. So in addition to having tired themselves out, they became cocky and began to make small mistakes. It was at this point that Owl went over to the sidelines to Bat and said, "Now is the time. Go into the game in my place." As soon as he entered the field, the birds passed Bat the ball, as they had previously agreed. Bat used every maneuver he had practiced. He zigged to the right, zagged to the left, and he went right through the legs of Bear to score a goal. On the very next play, Bat received the ball once more, and this time, he zoomed around in a loop, zigzagged past Deer, and scored again. Suddenly, the birds found themselves down only by one goal. The land animals became visibly panicked, and they called a timeout to strategize. Over in their corner, they asked each other, "Who is that little creature? That is not a bird we've ever seen before, is it?" Bear shook his head and said, "There is something familiar about that little creature, but I can't put my finger on it." Try as they might, there was nothing they could think to do to stop Bat's onslaught. When the timeout ended, Bat got the ball and zipped side to side past the panther who had scorned him and scored once more. Now the score was tied, and the animals could not think of any way to stop this mysterious little creature. They had never seen anything, not animal nor bird, that could move at that speed with such unusual, unpredictable patterns. Sure enough, in the final seconds of the great ball game, Pokotokochoba, Bat received the ball again, and this time, he looped around the entire animal team several times, zigging and zagging between them, playing with such confidence that he seemed to be showboating. The animals could barely keep track of Bat with their eyes, let alone prevent what would happen next. Bat scored the final goal just as time expired. All the animals, winged and otherwise, were speechless at what had just transpired. Suddenly, all the birds let out a deafening cheer. Hooray! Woohoo! They had won the great game with the help of their new recruit, the intrepid Bat. The excitement in the air was incredible. All the birds hooped and hollered and jumped around in celebration. They crowded around Bat and lifted him high above their heads for a victory dance. On the other side, the animals shook their heads with shame at their defeat. Victory, which had seemed so certain, was snatched away from them at the last moment. Finally, Bear said, "I think we should go over and congratulate the birds, and I sure would like to find out who their star player is." So, Nita, Bear, Icho, Deer, Koi, Panther, and some of the other large animals went over to shake the hands of the victorious birds. Bear asked Eagle to Okichoba, "Now, who is that star player you brought in at the end to win the game? We would like to congratulate him as well." Eagle and the other birds parted, leaving a gap between them, through which Bat strutted confidently, his head held high with pride. "You?" cried Bear. "If only we had thought to let you play with our team. Well, you have certainly shown us how wrong we were about you. You have earned our respect today." And so, that is the story of how the bat got its wings. It goes to show that all creatures, great and small, have a part to play in the plan of the Creator. We must never overlook anyone, no matter how insignificant they seem or how different they may appear, because everyone has a unique talent. Next time you hear a loud commotion in the forest, there may be another ball game going on. And who knows, in that game, there may be another star player in the making. Akamos, that's all.